In December 2019, a new virus was recorded in Wuhan, China. We didn't care here in Ghana, but over the last 1 year, we've been battling that virus called the coronavirus. On Face to Face today, we're going to investigate how the government of Ghana handled the coronavirus. My guest, I'll be introducing to you shortly, played a critical role in the management of COVID-19. My name is Umaru Sanda Amadu. You're welcome to Face to Face. My guest is someone you can call the player who was called from the bench to come and take part in the game when things became very critical. He was a member of parliament, represented the people of Lejokuku, and was invited by President Akufo-Addo to be the minister deputy in charge of health. And this happened during the coronavirus pandemic. Dr. Bernard Okoe-Boye, you're welcome to Face to Face.
Thank you, my brother Omar.
How are you doing?
By His grace, I'm fine.
It's good to see you again.
Yeah, it's always good to see you and the city team. The city is, I call it home.
I know. I remember our first interview was before you went into the election.
Yes.
We did it on Politicals
after
on
primaries.
City TV at the time. It was online.
Yeah,
it's good to see you. I've become a big man now.
Yeah, you're also looking very handsome. I think your appearance is a depiction of the state of the country now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the country looks handsome.
I see. People will start suspecting you, but let's leave it there. How is Lejokuku, though, your constituency? You crashed out in 2020. You were one of the casualties. You're one of the reasons that MPP lost the speakership, even though you won the presidency.
Yeah, Omar, man proposes, but God disposes. We're putting our best. If you look at Lejokuku, the dynamics, it's a strong place for the NDC. They are strong there. Even in 2016, when I won, JM won the presidential. He won by a margin of about 2,000 votes ahead of then candidate Akufo-Addo. And I won with about 1,005. So it was like skirt and blouse. Even with the wind of change, JM won Teshi. So it tells you it's one of those places that they are sort of comfortable. And in 2020, with all the work that His Excellency has done with the social programs, with the Lekoma Road, with the landing beach, with all the advocacy we made, JM still won the constituency with a margin of more than 9,000 votes. President Akufo-Addo had about 50,000 plus. JM had 59,000 plus. So from the word go, you could see that had a mountain to climb. It means their party strength was quite significant in the constituency. It's not like other constituencies where there are about 9 constituencies in the central region where President Akufo-Addo won, but our candidates couldn't make it. Mm-hmm. It means the president was more popular.
Okay.
And so if mine had been a similar case, in 2016 when even GM led with about 2,000, by the grace of God, I was able to get some of them on the side and won. Mm-hmm. But this time the mountain was
huge,
quite huge, 9,000 plus, about 10,000. So I got about 54,300 or so, and the NDC candidate had about 55,900, about 1,600 different. So we still broke the mountain, but it was a tall order. And with some of the observations made, I think we can work hard and get the seat back. Yeah.
Lejokuku is one of the flip constituencies or swing constituencies. That's what we've always known it to be.
Yeah.
And it never retains a member of parliament. Did you not see this coming based on the history?
Well, I tried to understand why they were changing the MPs so that I could work on those reasons and avoid a similar situation. Things like comments like "we don't see our MP" came up. Comments like the MPs sit in big cars, their windows are tinted, we can't see them. Comments like there's no visible projects to see the works of the MP. And because of all these, I had a deliberate program to make sure that I was very, very visible. And that's why I sometimes average 8 hours just riding my bike around, walking, going to people, saying hello to them, asking them what they think. That's why I fought hard and convinced my government to prioritize the Lekoma Road so that there will be something to show for and deal with that excuse that they don't see projects. That's why I was able to lobby hard so that the landing beach or the mini harbour project, which is a project that has been on the table for close to 80, 90 years. It's a multi-million-dollar project. As we speak, it's about 60% done. It's going on aggressively. Before the election, they all could see a lot of works happening. That's why I didn't go in for a V8 with my car loan. I got a pickup, and it was transparent. In fact, when I started using it, all 4 windows were transparent, but break-ins were happening because people could see what was in the car. So it was the back glasses that were tinted. But when I'm driving, you see me. That's why I was not chauffeured, because they make comments like, you see them, there's a policeman around. That's why I never had any police. I just make sure for security reasons I have a friend by me at any time. So I did a lot, and I tried to relate well. I did a lot, programs and all that, running medical outreaches and doing a lot of stuff.
Playing football,
yes. Anything that will make you close.
And all of these didn't work?
Yeah, so...
Could it be that you were faking it?
Oh, no, but...
Are you a natural bike rider in Teshin?
Of course.
Are you a natural footballer in Teshin? Or you only started doing that because you became an MP? So
I was working in Chebi, the government hospital, for about 4 years before I came to Accra. I never drove my car to work. I walk. Anyone in the town knows me.
In Chebi?
I walk. Yes, in Chebi. I walk. I'm someone who likes walking. Unless the distance cannot be covered with walking. Bicycle, excellent. If you look at public health reasons, those who ride bikes live average 5 to 10 years more than those who don't. Because cycling does a lot on your heart. It also helps burn calories. It keeps your metabolism. So there are huge benefits for cycling. So all the things I do, bike, soccer, my favorite game. Anyone who knows me from school days will tell you this guy is a very prolific footballer. So all the things I did are things that I enjoy. And I still do them. I was in the hospital last Monday for consultations at Lekma. This Easter Monday, I went to play soccer in the Zongo, Teshiningwa Zongo Estates. I played with the guys for about 40 minutes, had some chat with them, got to ask them how things are going and all that. So these are things, it's part of the life. It's not because of politics. And I'm happy that you don't have to have office or a portfolio before you do some of these things. But I would like to say that, look, in every political party, all tribes, all manner of people are part of the family. Once I'm from the coast, I'm a son of the Ga land. Whether I like it or not, if work ought to be done along the coast, some of us will be sent. So we have a duty to continue to relate to them, understand them, try to find out why they vote in certain ways, and see how we can win them over our time.
So if you did everything humanly possible and you still lost, then you have to agree with the simple theory that Lejo Kuku never repeats a candidate. Because that could be the only reason. Otherwise, why did you lose?
Well, as a scientist, one of the things you are taught is that you never say never. So scientists don't talk in absolute terms, that there is no way this will happen. New knowledge can break a particular barrier. So I believe that the second term can be made, it's possible. But until that becomes possible, people can assume it's impossible.
So you work hard at it?
Well, for now, I've not decided.
No, not you. I'm saying that anyone who is in there should have to work hard and expect that they can win a second term.
Absolutely.
Because you either lose your primaries or you lose a general election.
Yes.
Another theory is that wherever Lejo Kuku votes presidential, that is where the nation votes. So, and if you look at the trends from 92, it's almost like when Lejo Kuku votes presidential, it gives the whole nation follows. Yeah. In 2020, we are seeing a difference. Is that something you observed too?
Yeah, so 2020, you see, the voting pattern in 2016, 2020 actually reminds you or tells you that it's a constituency that the NDC is quite comfortable or has a grip. Because even with the wind of change in 2016, JM still won Lejo Kuku. But we won the national election convincingly, massively, with close to 1 million votes. But JM won Lejo Kuku.
So I think the theory is rather that if Lejo Kuku votes for an NDC MP,
yes,
an NDC government is bound to be formed.
Yes.
If Lejo Kuku votes for an NPP MP.
Yes.
But this time around...
This is the exception.
It gives less credence to the NDC people who think they actually won this election, and that you stole from them.
Oh,
that they won Lejokuku,
you see,
and they won Greater Accra.
You see, I think we can go into some of the reasons why, but there were a lot of issues that were playing out in Accra that necessarily didn't play out in the whole country. Issues that affected significant people in Accra, not our making. You can take example is the banking reforms. You know, most of the financial institutions, workers and things that were affected live within the metropolis, within this region. Although there are banks elsewhere, the funds and all that. And to be honest with you, those in the banking field will let you know that things were very fragile before even we came. And I met one of the top managers from a bank in this country who told me that until we came, anything could have happened. The banking sector could have gone under. But the way we handled boldly, supported some banks, realigned and all that, is made them more resolute. Now, although the banking sector has become stronger, there were consequences. We saved a lot of savings, we saved a lot of jobs. But you had a few who had to now work under new banks, had to be merged with others. Maybe their conditions were not the same as they were having previously. They would genuinely be unhappy because things have changed and might not have the patience to say that, oh, it was not our making, but we had to fix the problem. So because some of these things were in Accra, felt mostly in Accra, the dynamics in Accra was not exactly like the whole country. So when you go to other regions, the president's output was significantly appreciated. Unlike in Accra, where the voting pattern was not exactly like the whole country. But that also should remind all of us that Ghana is not only Accra. Although Accra matters, the whole country matters. So we've learned our lessons, and I'm happy that we don't have certain legacy issues to deal with now that can invoke the displeasure of citizens. At least we've passed that bridge, and hopefully we should do a lot of things that should bring a lot of hearts towards us and not turn certain people away. What,
in your view, causes the electoral defeat of an MP? Is it the policies of the government that he is a member of, or his own policies locally?
You see,
do people vote for an MP or vote for a party?
There are two things. There are people who vote based on the MP's output, and there are those who vote because they belong to a particular tradition. And that is why you can be the best MP in Ghana once you are contesting the Keita South or Ketu South seat, and you are from the MPP. It's a mountain to climb. So you can also be the best MP, let's say from the NDC. If you are contesting the Bantama seat, it will be a mountain. Now, so if you are standing on the ticket or contesting a seat that has a fair mixture of the two, output versus tradition, then you are likely to emerge the winner if you do your things well.
So it now hovers around the personality,
exactly,
not the party necessarily.
Exactly. So really, it's a combination of the two. So if you look at Lejokuku, for example, look, the ethnic dynamics plays out into the traditional voting. So if you are from Lejokuku, where when you put, let's say, my people got together with my brothers and sisters from Volta, and you put my brothers also from Northing, you're looking at about 75%, 80% of the Lejokuku.
And these are traditional NDC.
Exactly. So you have some from them who vote based on output. But if a greater majority decide to vote based on tradition, then you have
a lot cost for you.
Exactly. And look, and that's why I use the presidential results to let you know what was happening. If you look, Mahama, JM led, former President Mahama led with a margin of close to 10,000 votes. I tell myself, look at the projects that this government, President Kufuor, did in Lejokuku, where they were momentous projects. They will be part of the history of the town. The Lekma Highway is one of the finest projects.
I'm actually going to talk about the Lekma Highway because it's a place that excites me the most. I interviewed your predecessor, Sena Okitidia Benita, Sena Okitidia, on that particular road. And his interview, speaking to me, I mean, this was before 2016, about that road, the answers were not satisfactory. And people like yourselves use it to campaign. You came in, and it's a dual carriage highway. You did one side of the dual carriage highway, and you want to be celebrated. That's like defrauding the people, claiming that you fixed the road when you have not. You have done essentially 50% of the road, not 100%.
But the road was started some 30, 40 years ago.
But you promised that you fix it.
I mean, so if 40 years couldn't get it to 1 meter of tarred road, and in 3 years, less than 4 years going to the election, by the grace of God and with the efforts of the Akufo-Addo government, you had, in fact, it was not only one lane that had been completed. Even the second lane, they had done about 40% of the second dual carriage. So this is a road, even on the day of voting, it was a road that was evolving, that you could see the momentum was huge.
But the people saw that it was just for votes and that you were not really fixing the road. You were doing it to make them think you've done it.
The momentum peaked even before election year. Let's be honest with ourselves. There is no government that will come into office and within the first 2 months, mega projects. The Lekma Road is one of the biggest in terms of volume. The cost is millions. It's a multi-million-dollar project. It's not a small town road. It's a highway. You know, it's a dual carriage. And this government did all the work it could within a matter of 24 months to start the project. So I think my people, the point I'm making is that whether I like it or not, there are people in this country. You can do the best of projects. Fortunately or unfortunately, they vote in a particular way. So your prayer is that most of those people don't go on the same path when you've done so much. You hope that they would. And I believe there are people from all walks of life and ethnic groups who voted for the MPP based on some of the things we've done in Lejikuku. Just unfortunately, like we always see, majority voted in their tradition. Look, I say this without any shame, that my opponent didn't interact with even 1% of the population.
How do you know that?
I mean, I was always on the ground.
You underestimated him?
No, it's not about underestimation. I am saying that what played out, and if you ask his own followers, they will tell you, he didn't interact with even 1% of the population.
How did he win then?
That's why I'm saying that, you know, there are constituencies in this country. For JM to have won the Lejikuku with more than 9,000 votes, they knew why they said that they can even put him in a room and he will win. They were hoping, they knew. And that's why he won with less than about 1,500 votes. How come JM won with close to 9,000 plus and he won with 1,000? They knew that even if they keep him in a room, their traditional voting base, if nothing happens, could secure them the
So
seat.
you campaigned better than him, but you still lost. That's what you're saying.
I'm saying, if you ask any NDC follower, most people, apart from their branch executives, those who vote on him on primaries, most NDC, there are people in parliament, NDC MPs in parliament, who told me that who is the candidate at our place. They've not seen him.
They don't know him. He was a party chairman in the constituency. How can you say a party chairman is not known?
But that's why I'm saying that the branch people, it's like polling station executives. They know him.
But the population doesn't.
I mean, not only the population, even the NDC members who are not.
Really? So they just voted for someone they don't know?
That's what, but you know that in this country, if you are familiar with Ghana's politics, there are people who go and vote for the party and not the individual. And I'm saying that your prayer, if you're a politician in Ghana, is that you don't have so much or so many of such people turning out to vote, because they don't care what has happened.
The landing beach, my colleague went there and they said you haven't done FOCO. They in fact said that you were just doing Azan, you went to create these so-called container hospitals, and they said so many unprintable things against you. The people were really angry with you.
Well, I don't think that is the situation. Look, I come from the place. I have a fair idea of how I'll not say how they do their things, but how we do our things. If someone is aligned to the NDC for traditional reasons, and you've done so well, and they still want to vote for the NDC, if you ask them why they voted in a particular, they have to find reasons. So someone can go like, oh, I don't like this container clinic. It should have been a bigger one. Mm-hmm. But should I show up physically and say hello to such a person, they'll go like, oh, hello, doc. Because they know that I'm not someone who's acted acrimoniously or acted in an aggressive manner or in a hostile way towards them. So I deal with all people in a very gentle way, try my best to win them over. But I also appreciate that a lot of them feel that the NDC is a heritage.
Will you contest again?
I mean, we will have our internal primaries 2 years from now. It's a long time. And for me, I want to see how I can operate in the MPP to make sure we retain power. It can be at the national level, it can be at the regional level, it can be at the constituency level. I don't know how it will play out, but I think time will tell.
Retaining power would mean a new president, but have you decided who you are supporting yet?
Oh, my spirit is with one of the top guys, but I think the right time will come when I'll disclose it.
So you don't mention that?
When I say my spirit, it means my whole being is with one of them.
But you won't mention who?
For now, I will not.
Should I give you names to choose from?
But they are top names, so if you list the top names, I'll say to be one of them.
But you won't tell me who. This is Face to Face on City TV. My name is Umaru Sandamadu. My guest is Dr. Bernard Okoe-Boye. He is former member of parliament for Lejukuku and former deputy minister. See how difficult that has become to say. He's been there for 4 years. Already he's out. I'll come back and ask him if Akufo-Addo will give him a job as deputy minister for health again. And we'll talk about the management of COVID-19. Don't go away.
This is Fact Finder from the BBC.
We live in a world where news travels fast, and sometimes it's hard to differentiate fact from fiction. Fact Finder brings fact-checking from the newsroom up close so you can separate truth from chaff. Be empowered to tell what's fake from what's real. Watch Fact Finder by the BBC on City TV every Wednesday at 6 p.m. City TV. It's your world.
You're welcome back to Face on City TV. My name is Umaru Sandamadu. My guest is Dr. Bernard Okoe-Boye, former Deputy Minister for Health. Is it appropriate to call you Deputy Minister for Health or you're a former?
Umaru, you know, once the president is sworn in, all former appointments become null and void. So, you know, my former boss, the minister, had to be reappointed and vetted and all that. So, I'm a former. I am not the current.
But have you been told whether you remain?
Oh, I've been told that I'll still be relevant in this administration to serve in some form to support our agenda, but not told specifically where. So
right now you are just swimming. You are not sure where you are going. You are going heavy nose. You are going, but I don't know
where. I am proud to say that I've been part of the president's team fighting COVID, and I'm happy that I'm still part of the team. I'm still a member of the National COVID Task Force.
Would you like to be appointed Deputy Minister for Health?
Well, I would like to be given the opportunity to still serve, whether at the national level or whichever level, because I believe that we need to bring our energies and knowledge together so that we get the best of ourselves. So I always say that it's not good to be idle. It's good to be doing something. So I'm always happy when I have to do something.
Let's talk about the management of COVID-19. So you were named Deputy Minister and you were thrown in the deep end when COVID was very high. First, as a medical practitioner, from the outside, I mean, COVID, nobody saw it coming, but it came. Could we have prevented it from coming into the country?
Well, if you want your risk to be zero for COVID, your risk can go high for other things. So I'll give you an example. Because COVID started in Wuhan and it was moving around the world through travel, we could have closed our seaport, closed our airport, and be in our shell. That one, you'd have reduced your risk of importation close to zero or zero. But the risk of supply deficits will start setting in for products that are imported. The risk of businesses going under for partners that fly in. The risk of virtually even medical care being endangered. There are drugs that are flown into this country and used for critical care. There are consumables that we use for doing dialysis and things that are not produced here. All those, so you can start losing lives on the ward because you've reduced the risk for COVID to zero. So the point I'm making is that because running a country and living an individual life is a balance of risk, what you do is to leave some small measure of risk for COVID, but put a reduction measure so that you are not too exposed. And that is why we had to have our airports still operating in the beginning when it was announced by the WHO. But ban travel from certain countries with more active cases, I think above 200 when we started. Mm-hmm. Check the temperature, make sure that you are not febrile, make sure you are not coughing, you don't have symptoms. It's a way of making sure that the one who is coming in has a lower risk for COVID. But even with all that, two slipped in. So the point I'm making is that you could have had a zero COVID case, but you'd have had more mortality or deaths from other issues. So,
but eventually we close the borders. The borders are still closed. We close the airports.
Exactly. So every move must be justified. So if you are now increasing the risk for other conditions, the risk of hunger, the risk of business failures, the risk of having shortages in hospitals, the risk of shortage in certain food supplies, you can point to 2 cases that have entered from Norway and Turkey and say that, well, because I have 2 cases, it can spread to 1,000. So let me close that risk.
So you had a reasonable reason.
Exactly.
A concrete reason that people can see.
A justifiable cause. And that's why I always say that managing a pandemic is not a static case. It's a dynamic process. And every step you take, even today, steps are being changed. It's US, Canada, Britain, Kenya. People continuously amend their protocols based on what is playing out. So that at any point in time, it's a balance of risk versus lifestyle and livelihoods and health and safety. It will be like that until you get to the last phase, which is the development and deployment of vaccines. Is the last phase. And I'm happy that the world is there. That is where things can become a little bit predictable, where number of hospitalization would be going down, where that number of cases would be going down and deaths.
But there were people who worried that the continent of Africa was going to struggle if the virus eventually came.
Yeah.
And it did. And in Ghana, capacity was an issue. And if you look at the political side of things, the NDC people would say to you, you didn't look like a government that was serious to deal with COVID-19. You didn't have the health infrastructure ready. They had left it behind for you. That's what you used. The president had mentioned the Agenda 88. That has not happened. All of these things that were promised have not been delivered. So really, how would you say it was through your smartness as a government that we dealt with this pandemic?
Well, you see, unfortunately, sometimes we politicians, I'm speaking as a politician, not physician, we politicians try to mix politics with technical operations sometimes or activities. Look, if COVID should enter Ghana, yes, policy or governance will play a role, but the technical aspect, the role of public health people and physicians and all that, they are not politicians. So to doubt the capacity of the country would mean to doubt our own technical and professional people just because we are doing politics. I knew that we had the human resource, the expertise to deal with an infectious agent. I also know as a public health specialist or person that you need the right decisions at the top in terms of policy to make the work of the technical professional people smoother. And I thank God that we had a government that was willing and actually adopted the right policies to complement the efforts of the professionals. Look, the US has the best infrastructure for curative medicine, not preventive medicine. We have 2 broad medical fields, the curative and the preventive. Preventive is where you put in place measures to even prevent a particular disease from happening. Like, what are the infrastructural arrangements to make people walk more so obesity reduces? So that's the preventive aspect. That will take more of governance, more of planning, more of research. Then you also have hospitals that will be built to handle obese people, helping them with their diet, checking their pressure, their sugar, and how to reintegrate and change their lifestyle. Now, US, Britain, certain countries, Japan, they have strong curative. Our curative is not like the US. But luckily for us, we have a very strong preventive system or public health system where we have district hospitals, we have district officers, community nurses who go out there to do vaccination, teach people how to eat healthy and all that. Luckily, in managing COVID, you need a bigger part is the preventive, to teach people how to handle themselves, to coordinate nationally. You are not in your shells. You know, when you go to certain countries, they are in their shells. I mean, you go to a city, let's say you go to Manchester, their system is very strong. You go to maybe another state, their system very strong, Southampton, but they might not be cooperating that strongly. By Ghana here, you come to Accra, we have district DHMT, district health management teams. At the region, they have the regional health management team. They meet periodically. They interface and all that. Those things helped us greatly to coordinate our response. And I'm happy to say that, yes, we had some few challenges with capacity in terms of managing the sick. But we quickly, this government quickly expanded. Look at testing. The whole country had only 2 testing sites for PCR. Ask yourself, 25 years of fourth Republican democracy, how come there are only 2 centers for PCR testing, which is a very complicated or sophisticated testing regime? It's because it takes a lot of capital investment to have that capacity. So for 25 years or so, we had only 2 places, KCCR in Kumasi for North and Middle Belt, and Noguchi for the Southern Belt. Within a span of 6 months, we quadrupled our capacity. As we speak today, there are about 18 to 20 centers that can do PCR in Ghana, from 2 to 18. So COVID has actually pushed us to catapult, our activities and get to a place where now I think it will even affect us going to the future in terms of research. We now have a lot of capacity. Look at the centers, infectious disease, through private participation and government. We have the Ghana Infectious Disease. As we speak, Ridge Hospital quickly put up 30-bed capacity for infectious disease. Tema General has built capacity. So the government was able to quickly increase the capacity for curative care, medicine in terms of
the government was exposed during the lockdown.
Yeah.
So you had to quickly call off your own lockdown because you couldn't feed the people, even though you pretended to be, you fed some people, but there were a lot of people who were not fed and the amount was huge.
Omar, even Christ, he had to do some miracle to feed his followers. There were a lot. People were many. Yeah, the lockdown had to come to an end at a particular point because it's not just because, I don't believe it's necessarily because of the feeding, but you see, some of us always argue that in managing a pandemic, you put all risk at the table. You can't say because you want to reduce risk to 0 for the virus, you lock everybody and close activity. Immediately that happens, especially if you've not built all your infrastructure. When I say infrastructure, elsewhere, you have, let's say, 80% or 90% of consumers buying food, clothing, online. I mean, someone can be in his house for a year and still be preserved, not die. I mean, you have a seriously informal sector. How many people order food online in this country? So if you lock people down because you want to reduce their risk for a virus to 0, you now increase their risk for starvation to about 80%. If you have a lot of folks working in the informal sector, they have to go out in a day
to get food
and to feed their families. When you lock down because you want to bring their risk to 0 for a virus, you raise their risk for hunger to about 90%. And guess what? Hunger will reduce their quality of life and can kill them before the virus. So you always must be conscious of your environment, the structures you have.
But you still impose a lockdown, which means you miscalculated then the risk?
No, we know more of the virus today than when we imposed the lockdown. The lockdown is not only also supposed to reduce the risk of the virus. I think I mentioned this those days. Is to give you time to catch up with the virus. The reason why we refer to an infection that is going quickly as an outbreak is that the cases you are getting is more than the ordinary. When we say it's an epidemic, it's happening at a larger scale than normally happens. It means the organism is ahead of you. Once it's ahead of you, it can cause more carnage.
You're catching up.
So to catch up, you slow activity. So when you slow activity, you don't go to sleep. You quickly learn about the virus. The science community is telling you, you can do ABC to contain the virus. So once 3 weeks of lockdown is a long time in the scientific community, you have a lot of information, how the virus behaves. And now when you open up, there are new protocols you are telling people. There are ways you can amend your things as a Ghana Health Service or as a government. And so people should not think that it was only for the physical slowing down the virus. It's also to gain knowledge and to put yourself in order. Global supply came to a halt. Countries were stopping their exportation. So Umaru, quickly, we also had to get to businesses. So it was not just the medicines, it was also about production.
But despite all of this, we still went ahead and engaged in mass activities. So we engaged in the national identification registration, we engaged in the voter registration exercise. Yeah. We opened schools. Yeah. And while all of this was happening.
Yes. So I think this line which I'll put out is a very common and very recurring line that I always put out from the time of the pandemic to now, and I'll continue to say it. In times of a pandemic, nobody can reduce his or her risk to zero. When we say reduce your risk, it means that you can't say because I've done ABC, I can never get the virus. Any step you take is referred to as a risk reduction measure. So what you do is that certain activities that are very necessary will still play out, but you reduce the risk. So kids, see what His Excellency President Akufo-Addo did. And I think he set the pace. He was more or less the trailblazer. Instead of going for the zero option, zero risk of saying, kids, stay at home, don't go to school. In fact, even that one is not zero because kids can get it at home. Mm-hmm. Their parents can bring home. The president said, okay, the kids will go to school, but the numbers should be reduced so that there is some distancing. You don't have congestion. And then two, they shouldn't just go to school. They must go with sanitizers supplied. They must go with face masks supplied. This is not for fun. The mask, science has proven through research that when the population wears their mask, rate of infection drops. So our kids went to school with the nation having invested in mass supply of masks. Kids went to school with every child having 200 ml sanitizer. Kids went to school with their teachers taught on IPCs, infection prevention control measures. So we invested into this.
Was that not an unnecessary risk that you took as a government, sending the kids back? In fact, there were people who held the view that the world is ending. Why are you bothering about education?
Well,
let the kids stay home.
We could have lost 2-3 academic years. And then you compare the risk of progress in life to the risk of having managed the pandemic with protocols or risk reduction measures. Look, if we had gone with the argument of those who said, until there are 0 cases, let kids be at home, the kids will be home by now still. So it's possible we could have had kids at home till 2023, because once there are active cases in the population, when I say even if there's one active case, the risk of a worsening of the situation is always there. It took 2 cases for Ghana to go to a lockdown. Today, our active case count is 1,447. People are still going about their duties. We are doing this interview because we have knowledge that if we've had a shot of the vaccine, we still wear our mask, we keep our distance, wash our hands, and don't stay in congested places, closed places, our risk would be low. That's why we are still moving around. So it is knowledge that has made us go round and not the active case count. But guess what? In the beginning, when we had 2 cases, we locked down because we didn't have all this knowledge. So
you're a medical practitioner. There were all these videos circulating about the mask not being good for you. You're breathing in your own carbon dioxide and all of that thing. And truthfully, it's uncomfortable. There are people who even think kids should not wear the mask. Yeah. What is your knowledge on that?
It's more uncomfortable when you are positive for COVID and your lungs are getting filled with fluid instead of air, because the virus is irritating and triggering your immune system to start pushing more blood to your chest and more fluids getting out of your blood vessels, and you feeling like you are drowning. That one is not only uncomfortable, it's also scary. and can push your kidneys to start misbehaving and can push your liver, and then you can finally die. So, the options.
Yeah, but
I'll choose discomfort over fluid in the lungs.
But does wearing the mask not cause another? Doesn't it have a side effect?
As for those theories of carbon dioxide hypoxia and all that, those are wild theories. That's taking what's the word? That's taking an occurrence to the extreme. It's like saying that, well, if you drink a lot of water, your tummy can be full. So drinking so much water can make you have a ruptured stomach. It's like taking something which appears true on the surface and stretching it to the end. Of course, once you've put a barrier on your face, the rate of carbon dioxide going out is slowed down. So some can be on your immediate face and all that. But there's no way that will lead to carbon dioxide building in your blood and getting what we refer to as carbon monoxide poisoning, which happens when someone is caught up in a room with fumes from a car where oxygen, carbon dioxide, and monoxide is forming. So, I mean, those were wild theories. And I rather see it as a light side of the pandemic, where people are trying to go into wild imaginations. Okay. But look, the mask has been proven seriously to be a very efficient tool.
Okay.
Yeah.
If the vaccine is for treatment, why do I have to still wear my mask after the vaccine?
The vaccine, well, I wrote a piece on vaccines, whether it's smart or suicidal to wait for the vaccines. And I made some very important 3 key points. Remember, a vaccine is not an antiviral agent. It's not like treatment, where you are giving Lonart or anti-malaria drug, and within 2-3 days, when you finish, it cures your malaria. The vaccine is supposed to provoke your immune system to produce soldiers that will be around, so that anytime COVID enters, they can fight it quickly, and you don't get sick with COVID-19. But now, this is what happens. You are giving a treatment for COVID so that your situation does not get worse. You don't go into a critical situation and you don't die. That's why you are giving treatment, is that not so? Now, when people are giving vaccines, there are 3 things that happen. One group will not get COVID at all because the soldiers they've produced stop the virus from even getting established. So they don't get COVID at all. That's the first group. And that's why when you hear efficacy for Pfizer, 90-95%, it means 95 out of 100 people will not get, when you test them, they will never be positive.
Okay.
But 5% can be positive. Mm-hmm. AstraZeneca, 70% efficacy. If you give to 100 people, 70% will not even get mild disease. It means they never get COVID-19. But 30 out of the 100 can get COVID-19. But then we move to the second leg. Out of these 30% who can get COVID-19, 85 to 90% would never get severe illness.
Okay.
It means they've gotten COVID, but because of the vaccine, they have some soldiers who have made the system get a check, although they are positive. So they don't get severely ill. And so they don't get hospitalized.
Okay.
So your system is not burdened with sick people. The vaccine achieves that.
Okay.
And then the third leg is that almost 100% of all those who got the vaccines were saved from death. So the vaccine does 3 things. First, vaccines reduce the rate of infections. So people don't get COVID at all. They don't even record a positive case. 2, vaccines, even for those who become positive, don't get severely ill. And thirdly, you don't lose lives.
So when do we stop wearing our masks?
So just a second. So remember I said when you give treatment to someone who is sick, you want to prevent severe illness and death. Mm-hmm. Now, so if the vaccines would produce these 3 things in their population, at the second and third level, which is preventing severe illness and death, they are mimicking what a treatment would have done.
Okay.
I hope you get me. And that was lost out in the narrative when we started. People only talk about the prevention and then talk about saving you from severe illness and death. Now, people say, then when would we stop wearing the mask? 2 things. Because even Pfizer would give you 90 or 95%. There's still some who can be positive. Wearing the mask adds an extra layer or 2. It means that even for that small window, you close it with the mask. So that if you've had the vaccine and you be 5 out of the 100 who could have gotten COVID, your mask would have stopped the droplets from getting into your face.
I'll come back and ask you to clarify this further because I don't understand why I will get an injection or a vaccine and still keep wearing a mask which is uncomfortable. Then what's the point of the mask? And that's a question many people keep asking. This is Face to Face on City TV. My name is Umaru Sandamad. My guest is a medical doctor and a politician. Don't go away.
City TV is live on DSTV. Go to channel 363. On GoTV, access City TV on channel 182. On a digital TV, please press the menu button on the remote control and run a new search on your TV. Take note that without an antenna, you cannot access City TV on your television. City TV can be accessed on a free-to-air digital box like the GoTV and Star Times box. City TV, it's your world.
You're welcome back to Face to Face. My guest is Dr. Bernard Okoe-Boye. Doc, so you were explaining before we went on that break that we would or we may never stop wearing the mask?
No, that's not the case. So there are two things, the science and the solidarity. The reasons behind wearing the mask for now. The science is that even with the vaccine, like I said, there's a small percentage that can be positive. So you want to wear the mask so that it's an extra layer.
To protect those people.
To protect those people. And then the solidarity aspect is that you've gotten your first shot of the vaccine. Mm-hmm. I have mine. Mm-hmm. Greater majority have not had their vaccine. You don't want a situation where you and I will step out without a mask. When they ask us, we are covered. And then the others, they have to wear a mask. So it's solidarity.
Selfish.
Exactly. So we all are in it together until we come out of it together. Usually, when you cover about 70% of the population, now this is what happens. The risk of meeting someone who is positive is very low. That's where we can start changing our protocols and say the mask can be off. But for now, when you've covered maybe less than 10% of your population, it's not smart to start dropping the mask. And you don't drop it and say, I am covered. Mm-hmm. You want it to be collective. So you show solidarity. We all are wearing. The science is that to prevent the extra, if you are part of the few who might get it, you've prevented that. And the solidarity aspect is that if you wouldn't get it at all, hold your brother until majority of us are covered. And then the country will review the protocol and say, so at the point, mask will go off. Okay. But that is when a lot of us are covered.
And that will be over 70% of the population.
It's good to cover minimum 60-70% before you say mask should be off.
Do we know when this is going to happen? Because I took my jab and I was told I'll be taking my next jab in April. No one has invited me to come for it yet. What do I have to do?
But if the date is not up, why do you want us to invite you?
No, but you should start telling me that.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
but do we have the?
So let me tell you. At the end of the month, you are due for your second shot.
No, I'm asking this because we know that COVAX gave us free vaccine. Yeah. As a government, you have not bought any vaccine with 1 cedi of your money yet. COVAX gave us free delivery. We've used that, 600,000. Did you have to divide it into half and use 300,000 and keep the rest 300,000?
We rolled all out. As we speak, this country has done over, I'm sure now we'll be nearing 700,000. Remember, apart from COVAX, we've had vaccines also from Africa, the medicine supply platform. We've had
MTN has provided.
Yes, exactly. So I think.
So what if we injected or vaccinated all the 600,000? What if it's April now? We don't get the next 600,000.
No,
what happens to me if I don't get a second shot?
We are working hard. I mean, the president himself is involved. The Minister of Health is involved. Ghana Services. We are all involved. We are talking to whoever is concerned. Remember that even if we even have to buy the vaccines outside COVAX, I mean, we are willing to do that, especially for the second dose. As I speak, government is I think we are almost even done with it, working on LCs to purchase vaccines, some of the Sputnik vaccines. We are looking at buying in the short term about 2 million, in the medium to long term before the end of the year we are looking at over 10 million from Sputnik. So the Sputnik has also been validated by our FDA. You know, the president said in his speech that before we even buy, we would have been made ourselves comfortable with the efficacy and the benefits. So, I mean, the money is there. I think globally, money is not a problem. Money is not an issue now. It's a supply chain. You know, we are having issues. You have companies that are producing AstraZeneca in the US being told to wait because of maybe some issue. Then the next time, India, because of travel ban restrictions, they said, okay, wait, we want to make sure that India has enough. Then the EU says that, okay, don't export out. So now I think the problem, there's some challenge with supply. So I think it's good for citizens to appreciate the fact that we are not an isolation. Ours is not an isolated case. Globally, countries are having funds and they are having to do some extra negotiations and all that. And we are not an exception.
Those of us who took the first shot of the AstraZeneca, why must we take the second shot?
Well, the first shot gives you some immunity, but the studies, you know, everything is based on studies. The studies show that the immunity is more rigid, sustained, and complete when you get a second shot. I think the first one apparently gives you about 70-80% cover, but we want good cover and sustainable cover.
So now that I'm not sure. Do you have 600,000 on a ship coming or on a plane coming?
Well,
if you don't, then
I mean, luckily most of these are not put on a ship.
Okay, it came by aircraft the last time.
So it's a matter of some 6 hours, 8 hours, maximum 12 hours, and vaccines are here. Anything can happen any day.
But haven't secured the procurement,
I mean,
a consignment.
Like I told you, even LCs have been raised by this country on vaccines. LCs that have gone all the way to Bank of Ghana, with Ghana having made commitments to buy them. So we are still talking. The minister, we are in the ministry building as we speak. It's still engaged in meetings. And because planes fly them in, you can have a nice, agreement this evening, and tomorrow morning the vaccines will be in. We should be optimistic. I think you don't fight a pandemic also with a funny, with a pessimistic spirit. You need to be very positive. You need
but
to
you also have to ask the right questions. That if I have
your questions,
in my system,
your questions are not wrong at all. Let me admit that my optimism also is founded largely not only on faith but also on the strings being pulled by the president and the minister.
If I don't get the AstraZeneca and then I see some Sputnik being, given somewhere, can I walk around and say, "Charlie, give me the Russian one"?
Yes.
Can I add that to my?
Well, so this one is not official for you, Omaru in particular. We'll try and make Sputnik with AstraZeneca because of all the questions you'll be asking. But on a serious note, I think for now, what we want to do is the uniform one for those who get AstraZeneca. We are working hard to do.
So there'll be Sputnik for people who haven't had any at all.
Exactly.
They'll go ahead. And then Pfizer?
Yes. I mean, for Pfizer, because of their cold chain challenges. Pfizer is using extreme temperatures for preserving them. And I think Pfizer even developed other versions which can be stored with our -2 to -8 degrees, the normal one we use here. So let's see what Pfizer does. By July, August, the US is vaccinating close to 2.5 million people averagely a day. So looking at that rate of vaccination, by end of July, by August, most scientists expect them to have covered their population.
So isn't the case that unless they satisfy themselves, we will not get some?
I mean, as for the US, most of the folks who have gotten their vaccines went into negotiations with them even before the vaccines were put on the market. So they are not a classical market where it's like you have money, come and buy. They've done negotiations. So it's like they are dealing with those that they've negotiated with. But the good news is that beyond AstraZeneca, the cover beyond AstraZeneca, the Johnson & Johnson, Sputnik, Pfizer too would add to the lot beyond August for all countries. And I suspect strongly that once they've covered their country, all that big capacity they have now would come at the disposal of the world and might even come at either subsidized or no fee.
The demand and supply challenge, if what we have currently in the country isn't enough and many people want it, there is a tendency of people smuggling these and vaccinating people. I'm sure you've heard those reports. How can you deal with that? How are you dealing with that?
With the government, I mean, His Excellency the President Kufuor mentioned in his address that all vaccines, COVID-19 vaccines, are free in this country. So if anybody tries to take even 1 Ghana from you, you should know that it's an illegal. I think we need to educate.
Yeah, but if you need it, and that's what
I'll come there. Mm-hmm. So the first point is to let the public know that vaccines are free. Mm-hmm. Once someone mentions money, it's Kululu, it's Kalabule, it's underground. The second leg is that what drives people to want to pay for a vaccine? It is when the risk of severe illness and death is high, when the hospitals are getting full, and relatives who are dropping dead. Thankfully, by the grace of God,
we don't have that picture.
Yes, even with the few vaccinations we've done, you've started seeing the benefits of a vaccine. Hospitalization rates are dropping. And please, it's not only due to the vaccine, it's because of also the adherence to the protocol and the lifestyle. Look at what happened this Easter. People take it for granted. The beaches that were closed because of huge strict enforcement. It's possible if one case had slipped into this country and gone to Labadi Beach, 100 would have been in the hospital.
But Kwe was exciting. Kwe was massive.
Well, sometimes in catching people into the net, even if 1 or 2 sleeping, majority were caught, and that will help us. So once the picture looks good, people will be patient to wait for their turn and not go and pay money.
When will COVID be over?
Well, for me, I think I said the deployment of the vaccines has signaled the beginning of the end. There's also let me say, by December, COVID should be about 70-80% over for the world.
So we can start getting freedom by December. So that will be 2 years wasted on COVID, 2020 and 2021.
No, 2 years toughened, capacity built, not wasted. When COVID started, 5% of all the PPEs we were using were made in Ghana, 95% imported. Today, 95% of all our PPEs in Ghana are made in Ghana, 5% imported. It took COVID. So it's not wasted.
Dr. Bernard Okoe-Boye, I want to be optimistic just for now and say that in December you and I will be here and we'll be celebrating, and I'm sure we'll have a party in your residence somewhere.
Absolutely.
In Teshi. Do you still have a house in Teshi? Or after they voted you out, you ran away?
I'm still there. That's where I come from.
Okay. So in December I'll see you and we'll have a party.
Today you'll not be too mischievous.
No, I have repented. It's a new year. This is Umaru Sandamado. This has been Face to Face. My guest was Dr. Bernard Okoe-Boye. Thank you for watching us. Stay with Face to Face and, of course, City TV. It's your world.